this evening, and I hope you're in the mood to get spooked. So tonight I've got 3 more extremely terrifying Reddit encounters for you of the non-paranormal type. I hope you enjoy this video. So with that being said, and of course, as always on this channel, without any further ado, let's get into tonight's stories, shall we? Alrighty. So the first story for tonight was originally posted by a Reddit user called current_east_623. Their story is called "A Woman Blocked My Car in the Middle of the Street." A few months ago, I was driving home from a friend's house at about 11 p.m. I was heading down a small one-way street that is always totally dead after business hours, not paying much attention because this was a road I drove down regularly. Now, a very thin woman with scraggly grey hair, maybe in her 50s, that I hadn't immediately noticed on the sidewalk, suddenly walked into the road in front of my car. Now, I hadn't been driving very fast, so I stopped to let her cross. I wondered why she didn't wait for me to pass first, as there was no cars behind me. Now, she didn't cross all the way. She stopped in the middle of the street and then turned and walked right up to my car. She put her hands on the hood and leaned forward, so she was locking eyes with me through the windshield. Her pupils were giant. Her expression was angry, and she stared at me unblinkingly. She looked almost demonic. Now, my reaction was pretty automatic. I started shaking my head and loudly repeating, "No, no, no," to try and signal that I didn't want to interact with her. Now, she didn't move at all, and for a split second, I wondered if she needed some kind of help. But the look in her eyes and the way she didn't say anything put me completely on edge. I threw the car in reverse and lurched away from her. She stood up straight in the middle of the road, stared at me for a second longer, then turned and nonchalantly walked back to the same side of the street that she had come from. I put the car in drive and hurried past her and continued home. After the fact, I decided that this lady was probably on something and maybe didn't want to cause me any harm. But the expression in her eyes as they bore into mine was beyond creepy. Can you imagine driving home in the evening when it's dark and this happens to you? That is beyond creepy. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the creepiness is probably amplified by the fact that this is an older, scraggly looking woman with massive pupils who is probably on something. That kind of elevates the creepiness to a higher level. I think the only thing that would be creepier was if it was a scraggly looking child or something. That would maybe past her, and this woman was also like really scraggly looking, and her eyes were lighter than normal, and she just stared as they went past, and even when they drove away, like the entire time, this woman was staring at this Redditor's parents in the car, or maybe at the Redditor itself. I mean, what the hell is with people doing this? That is wild. Like, why though? I understand when they say like this woman looked like she was on something. I mean, maybe she wasn't in control of her actions at that moment, but that is something that is incredibly scary. So I don't see any other reason to do this other than to scare people in the first place. Like, this is wild, man. Like I said, it is nightmare fuel. That's what that is. It's kind of ironic, isn't it, that these videos are partially meant for you to be able to fall asleep, yet so many of the stories on here are proper nightmare fuel. Alrighty, so the next one was originally posted by a Reddit user called Burst-Beat, and their story is called I Was Being Watched, I Don't Know For How Long. Now this all happened exactly a year ago. Shout out to Facebook Memories for reminding me. I lived in a ground floor apartment in a very heavy foot trafficked area. It used to be a corner storefront, so the living room windows were huge and only one small one could be opened. Now it had a very violent upstairs neighbour and even angrier dealers living across the street. I've had to make multiple calls to the police and give statements. Now aside from them, the neighbourhood was pretty lovely and I got along well with all of my sane neighbours. One of my cats even became a local celebrity thanks to a haunted Halloween tour that would stop at my corner every night to tell stories. See, that sounds like something that I could potentially be interested in. That kind of reminds me of, was it American Horror Stories, like the series? In one of them, there's a haunted house door that stops in front of the house. Anyways, the second the cat heard those people from the door, he'd sprint from wherever he was to jump up on the open window and listen while they all cooed at him. That is so cute. Now anyways, because of the large windows, I didn't have any privacy in my living room. Now usually I didn't mind this because I'm a people watcher and my cats also loved the view. I had blinds and sheer curtains, but you could always still see straight into my apartment. Thankfully, I had plenty of privacy in my bathroom and bedroom. Yeah, you kind of need that. So one night, I was sitting at my computer desk in the living room just watching YouTube and sipping on a beer. Now I heard a group of people talking outside, but these things were like normal sounds for the area and I would have ignored it completely place, just listening for anything else, like footsteps or their voices again. Now, it took me a while to fully realize what I had just heard. I do typically prefer to sip on whiskey at night, but that day I wanted to try a new beer flavour that I had seen in the store. These people knew my habits well enough to know this. I was also deeply concerned that they knew it was whiskey, since I'd always drink it out of a set of pattern glasses, and there was no way to tell what was in them. It might have been apple juice for all they knew. Now, to be fair, you could see the kitchen from the living room windows, but I often kept my whiskey in the freezer, so they'd have to see me at a specific moment to know that. Now, needless to say, I did not sleep that night. And while I couldn't sleep, I remembered another incident that had happened a few nights prior. I keep my bedroom window open at night because I sleep right under it and I like the night breezes. There's a bright security light directly across the street, so even with the blinds down, I still have quite a bit of light hitting the opposite wall. Now, one night I woke up around 3 or 4 a.m, which isn't unusual for me, so I just turned on a Netflix movie to fall back asleep to. While laying there, I see the shadow of a head and shoulders appear on the wall, and it just stays there for way too long. I would guess about 15 or 20 minutes. Now, this isn't very common, but people have stopped to smoke a cigarette right outside my window before. The smell gives me an instant headache, but this time there was no smoke or smell of any kind. Someone was just standing there. I couldn't tell which way they were facing, but after the recent event, I wondered if someone was looking in while they thought I was sleeping. I told my co-workers about these events and they were just terrified for me. I was actually planning on moving at the end of October and just slowly bringing boxes and furniture to my new place over the course of a month. Now, once my co-workers heard what had happened, they all banded together and they got 75% of my stuff over to the new place in just one day. That's really nice. I told them that all I cared about was my animals and my bed, but they got everything but the larger furniture and whatever we couldn't box up and move before midnight. I love them all very much and appreciate them every single day. I had a couple of anxiety attacks over this, especially when I had to go back to get the last of my stuff, but I felt completely safe in my new place. I also got a full-blown security system with sensors and cameras. Unfortunately, this wasn't the first and ended up not being the last time I was watched or stalked. I still visit the area of my old apartment from time to time because it's a great bar scene. I don't think I'd be able to pick out their voices, but no one's given me weird looks or vibes since. she's sleeping in her bedroom. That is too creepy. Can you imagine just opening your eyes, waking up and seeing the shadow of somebody's head and shoulders on the wall? And like looking at it for straight up 15 to 20 minutes. That is insane. That is insane. Wow. Also, how dedicated do you have to be to stand there for a solid 20 minutes watching somebody sleep? Like, surely that gets boring. What? Like, I will never ever understand what goes on in these people's minds. Like, how can it be remotely interesting to watch somebody sleep for almost half an hour? I mean, the obsession must be real to be able to do that. I am so glad that this Redditor moved out and she's in a safer place now. The security system, of course, is a bonus. I've told you guys about this. Like, I'm of the opinion that if you can afford it, you should at least get like a doorbell camera or something, because it saves to the cloud. If somebody's ever at your door and they're up to no good, you've got footage of that and you can show it to the police. So I'm definitely a fan of doorbell cameras. But yeah, that story, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I would also immediately start looking for something else. As soon as somebody is invading your privacy in your home, I mean, that's it. If you can leave, you should leave. Alrighty, let's move on to the last story for tonight, and this one was originally posted by a Reddit user called chronicviolinist, and their story is called "He Knew I Was Home." I come from a smallish, neighbourly suburban town where a lot of families knew each other. Yet there was enough of a population that not everybody was intimately connected with each other's personal business. Now, normally it was pretty quiet, aside from normal day living, so these happenings caused quite a bit of disruption as everything unfolded. Way back when I was in high school, a mysterious string of break-ins started occurring around town. The first I heard about it was from a friend of mine who told me that someone had broken into her home while her and her mum were asleep. Someone had managed to enter their home late at night, and she thought the extra noise was her brother, as he usually returned from work around that time. She had no idea anything was wrong until she heard footsteps moving down the hall to her mother's room, then the door slowly creaking open. Her fear grew when their dog started going absolutely crazy. The sound from the dog thankfully startled the intruder, and he bounded out of the house and squealed away in a car. This person had not taken anything. Nothing was moved or missing. We looked at each other with fear as we talked about it and asked, what had he wanted? I just can't remember how much time passed, but eventually I let the story leave my head. Just like any other school night, I usually spent my evenings hanging out with my mum and watching their son, I believe in junior high at the time, was home alone when he heard someone enter the home. He immediately called the police and locked himself in a room further away from the intruder, armed with a baseball bat, while he was waiting for help to arrive. Now honestly, this guy must be a true crime podcast listener, because that is a good reaction. I mean, that is a good thing to do. Now, the intruder must have seen the cops coming, as he was gone without leaving a trace by the time the police entered the home and checked everything out. Nothing was stolen once again, or missing. I wish this story had a neat ending with a firm conclusion, but this was the end of the line. No arrests were ever made. We never found out who did this, and we never knew what exactly this person intended to do had he succeeded. And quite frankly, I'm glad I don't know. Although he never came back, I have always slept with my bedroom door locked since that day, and invested in home security software when I eventually moved into my own space. I have had a few creepy encounters in my lifetime, but this one still mentally affects me to this day. I mean, it is so fucking wild that somebody would specifically target homes where the people are at home. Like, they're there. He can see them. He can see them sat there watching TV, or he knows that they are in their bedrooms asleep, and he specifically targets those houses. Also, the fact that nothing ever got stolen or was missing is very strange to me. It suggests to me that this person's business was not with the people's possessions, but with the actual people living in the houses. I mean, I obviously don't know what he would have done had he not, been disturbed by dogs or by police coming, but this is quite wild. I mean, it is possible that this is kind of like a Daniel LaPlante thing, like that this person is doing it for the thrill of it and to scare people, like that is the end game, scaring people. But I mean, I doubt it. Like, would you actually go into the bedroom of a sleeping woman if you only wanted to scare her? I mean, I think the chances are quite slim that is what his motives were. I mean, I think the chances are quite slim that is his motive. So I think there is something more sinister going on. Also, I kind of want to comment on one of the last things that this Redditor said in this story. I've always slept with my bedroom door locked since that day. I mean, I get where this Redditor is coming from. I get that they feel safer that way, but it's kind of a safety hazard. Like, when there's a fire, you have to be able to get out of your bedroom. If your bedroom door is locked and you have to faff around with the lock, that's kind of dangerous. I mean, it's probably better to just check all the entrances and exits and the windows and make sure that they are all locked than to lock your actual bedroom door, because that could potentially be dangerous when there's a fire. So, just a little tip in case you got inspired from this story. But yeah, like this Redditor says, I mean, kinda glad that they don't know what the true intentions were of this intruder, because, I mean, I cannot imagine it being anything other than completely and utterly disturbing. And it's sad that this person kind of got away with it and never got caught. Because you don't know if this person just kind of moved on to a different town or a different area and carried on doing whatever it was that they were doing there. So that's kind of a shame. I always like to see these creeps get caught and get what they deserve. Alright, you guys, that was it for tonight's stories. I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to thank the wonderful Redditors who allowed me to share their stories with you guys on the channel. And I, of course, want to thank you for watching and for choosing to hang out with me tonight. I hope I will see you again in next week's